She stood at my ranch gate like she owned the place, sunglasses tilted down, waving papers in the air as if that was enough to erase years of sweat and money I had poured into this land. Behind her, buses full of people idled engines, humming 150 strangers ready to pour onto my property. And she had the audacity to shout, "This entire ranch is reserved for realtors today." For a split second, I thought it was some kind of prank, but the look on her face told me she wasn't joking. She truly believed she could take over my home. "I'm John Miller. I moved out here to Texas for peace, for space, for a life away from HOA nonsense and city politics. I bought this ranch outright, 50 acres of open land, a gate I welded myself, fences I hammered into the ground, cameras I wired with my own 2 hands. This wasn't managed by any HOA, not now, not ever. Yet, here was Karen White, self-proclaimed HOA president, acting like my land was her event venue. I told her as calmly as I could, "You don't have permission to step inside. This is private property." She smirked, tilting her head like I was a child who didn't understand the rules. "I'm the HOA president," she snapped. "I don't need permission." My jaw tightened. There was no HOA here, and yet she spoke as if her word carried the weight of law. She reached for the chain on my gate just as I grabbed it. "If you lock that gate," she hissed, "you'll regret it." My fingers wrapped around the cold steel. I pulled it tight and clicked the lock shut. The sound of that lock echoed like a gunshot. A few of the realtors behind her shifted uncomfortably, whispering. They were starting to realize something didn't add up. Karen's face twisted. She pulled out her phone and barked, "I'm calling the cops. You'll be dragged off your own property." I stared at her, pulse steady, because what she didn't know was that I had already called the sheriff 10 minutes earlier. Red and blue lights cut through the dusty road before she even finished dialing. For a moment she looked triumphant, like she had summoned reinforcements to crush me. She waved the deputies over, voice sharp. "Finally, arrest him. He's trespassing." He locked me and 150 professionals out of a scheduled event. The deputies glanced at me, then back at her, their hands resting casually on their belts. They weren't rushing. Karen shoved papers at them. "Here, proof. This ranch is booked for today." One deputy lifted an eyebrow. "Ma'am, this says community reservation form, and this isn't even our county." For the first time, her fake authority cracked. "Well, it's valid. I'm in charge here," she stammered. I stepped forward slowly. "Officers, would you like to see the actual deed?" From my truck, I pulled the folder I kept ready, flipped it open, and held it out. My name in bold, legal, undeniable. "This land doesn't belong to any HOA," I said evenly. "It belongs to me." Karen's face drained of color. She tried to snatch the papers back, but the deputy held them away. The second officer gave me a nod. "Sir, thanks for calling earlier. We'll handle this." Karen blinked, furious. "Wait, you called them?" I folded my arms. "Yeah. I told them exactly what stunt you were about to pull." For a moment, silence weighed heavy. The realtors and the buses leaned forward, some stepping off, asking each other if this was a scam. One woman spoke up nervously. Are we even supposed to be here?" Karen spun on her, barking. "Quiet. I told you this ranch is under HOA management." "Ma'am," one deputy cut her off sharper this time, "this land is outside HOA jurisdiction. And accusing a man of violence without evidence is a serious matter." But Karen doubled down. She held her phone high, recording me. "This man is violent," she screamed. "He threatened me. He locked me out. He's endangering my clients." She spun the story so fast it almost made my head spin. And I'll admit, for a split second I questioned myself. Standing there facing the crowd, her voice echoing with fake authority. I felt the doubt creep in. Maybe I should have just let them in, let them do their ridiculous event, and avoided the confrontation. Maybe I was making it worse by standing my ground. 100 strangers against one man, I felt small, outnumbered, almost foolish. But then I caught sight of the blinking red light on my porch cameras. Every lie, every threat, every false claim Karen had spewed, it was all caught on tape. I straightened up, the weight in my chest lifting. "Your word doesn't carry much weight against security footage," I said, tilting my head toward the cameras. Her phone shook in her hand. For the first time, real fear flashed across her eyes. The deputies shifted their stance, no longer neutral. They weren't looking at me anymore. They were looking at her. Still, Karen wasn't finished. Her desperation spilled out in a new form. She shoved her phone toward the deputies, her voice trembling. "You don't understand who I am. I'm connected. I can have this man thrown off in minutes." I stepped closer, calm but deliberate. "You keep talking like you're in charge," I told her, "but you don't even realize who you're dealing with." Her eyes narrowed. The deputies turned to me, curious. Slowly, I reached into my jacket, not fast, not threatening, and pulled out a slim leather wallet. With one flick, my credentials were open. The gold badge caught the afternoon sun. Both deputies straightened immediately. Karen staggered back, her jaw unhinged. You're law enforcement," she stammered. I nodded once. Federal. The silence was deafening. Even the engines of the buses seemed to hush. Karen tried to laugh, weak and forced. "This is abuse of power. You can't." "Ma'am," one deputy cut her off coldly. "You just attempted to defraud over 100 people and impersonate authority over private land. That's a crime, and now you're standing in front of a federal officer." Karen's face turned paper white. She stepped back, edging toward the crowd as if she could disappear into them. But I wasn't going to let her slip away. I raised my voice steady and clear so everyone, every realtor, every officer, every bystander could hear. "You tried to steal my land. You tried to use fake authority, and you thought no one would stop you, but you made one mistake." I let the pause drag, eyes locked on hers, the silence pulling the tension tight. "You picked the wrong ranch and the wrong man." Karen's shoulders sagged, her phone slipping from her hand into the dust. The deputies moved in firm and precise, gripping her arms as she sputtered about connections influence anything that might save her. But it was over. The buses grew quiet. The realtors looked at one another, realization settling in that they had been duped. Karen was shoved toward the cruiser, the clang of the door sealing her downfall. And just like that, the false power she paraded was gone. Never mistake loud authority for real authority, because the truth will always cut louder than the lie.